The studio went silent. You could have heard a pen drop. Melania's eyes flicked to the documents, then back to Jasmine. She opened her mouth, closed it, then forced a nervous smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That's absurd," she said. "This is clearly an attack. I won't engage in conspiracy theories." Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "It's not a theory if it's backed by court records and banking logs," she replied, sliding another page forward. Behind the cameras, producers scrambled. An assistant slipped a note to Felix, but it was too late. Viewers were already recording clipping and posting the exchange on social media. Hashtags like Crockett vs. Melania and Jasmine has receipts trended within minutes. Melania tried to pivot. "We're here to discuss America's future, not dig up ancient nonsense from foreign countries." Jasmine cut in, her tone still measured. "With all due respect, when your past raises questions of money laundering and influence peddling, it is America's future." Felix, regaining his footing, tried to steer back. "Let's stay on topic, please." But Jasmine's gaze didn't waver. "I am on topic. The topic is accountability." At home, viewers were glued to their screens. No one had ever confronted Melania like this, not on live national TV, not with facts, not with a folder full of receipts, and certainly not with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was risking. It was supposed to be just another night of primetime political theater. A sleek studio in Stamford, Connecticut, dark blue panels glowing under studio lights, high chairs arranged in a semicircle, and coffee mugs no one ever sipped from. 4 guests, 1 moderator, and a live audience of millions tuning in from living rooms across America, expecting the usual rehearsed talking points. But no one, not the producers, not the viewers, not even the guests, could have predicted what was about to unfold. Seated third from the left, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas looked unassuming in her tailored navy blazer. Her expression, calm, almost detached. For the first 20 minutes, she listened, scribbled notes, and said little. Across from her sat Melania Trump, the former First Lady, elegant as ever in a cream blazer, her poise a well-honed shield. She'd mastered the art of sidestepping tough questions with a smile and a vague platitude. The audience didn't blink. They'd seen this dance before. Then, the host, Felix Roman, a seasoned anchor with 2 decades of gliding through controversy, pivoted the discussion to ethics in politics. That's when the air shifted. Jasmine leaned forward just enough to signal intent. The camera caught it, a subtle tightening of her jaw. "Since we're talking ethics," she said, her voice smooth but firm, "let's stop pretending some folks get a free pass just because of who they're married to." The panel froze. Melania tilted her head, her smile faltering. "I am sorry, was that directed at me?" she asked, her tone icy but composed. Jasmine didn't flinch. She reached into her bag calmly, deliberately, and pulled out a neat folder. She placed it on the table, slid off the clip, and began laying out photocopied records. "These are transaction logs, offshore account filings, and a report from an abandoned investigation in upstate New York," she said, her voice steady as a surgeon's hand. "Every single one ties back to shell companies active in the early 2000s, and every single one connects to your name, Mrs. Trump." The studio went silent. You could have heard a pen drop. Melania's eyes flicked to the documents, then back to Jasmine. She opened her mouth, closed it, then forced a nervous smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That's absurd," she said. "This is clearly an attack. I won't engage in conspiracy theories." Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "It's not a theory if it's backed by court records and banking logs," she replied, sliding another page forward. Behind the cameras, producers scrambled. An assistant slipped a note to Felix, but it was too late. Viewers were already recording clipping and posting the exchange on social media. Hashtags like Crockett vs. Melania and Jasmine has receipts trended within minutes. Melania tried to pivot. "We're here to discuss America's future, not dig up ancient nonsense from foreign countries." Jasmine cut in, her tone still measured. "With all due respect, when your past raises questions of money laundering and influence peddling, it is America's future." Felix, regaining his footing, tried to steer back. "Let's stay on topic, please." But Jasmine's gaze didn't waver. "I am on topic. The topic is accountability." At home, viewers were glued to their screens. No one had ever confronted Melania like this, not on live national TV, not with facts, not with a folder full of receipts, and certainly not with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was risking. But this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment stunt. 3 days before Jasmine sat in a diner just outside Fort Worth, a quiet corner booth where waitresses still called you hon and refilled your coffee without asking. Across from her was her chief of staff, Kenny Rowe, his brow furrowed. A similar folder, not the one she'd bring on air but close, sat between them. "This isn't just political," Kenny warned, voice low. "You're talking Melania Trump. They'll come for you hard." Jasmine stirred her coffee, untouched. "Let them," she said. "People need to stop pretending she was just an accessory." "There's paperwork, Kenny, there's proof," he sighed, glancing out the window. "Proof doesn't always win. Sometimes it just gets you buried." Jasmine knew the stakes. A black woman from Dallas's South Side, no family money, no legacy name, just grit, and a law degree earned through sleepless nights. She'd clawed her way from public defender to Congress on the backs of grassroots supporters who saw her fire. Washington didn't always respect her, but they feared her sharpness. "I'm not starting a fire," she told Kenny. "I'm showing people it's already burning." That night, back at her apartment, she pored over the evidence again, reports from a dropped fraud case in Syracuse, signatures from Melania's alleged European ventures, wire transfers to shell companies in the British Virgin Islands, dated just before Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. It wasn't the whole puzzle, but she had enough pieces to see the shape of what had been hidden. The weight wasn't just legal or political, it was personal. She wasn't just challenging a former First Lady. She was taking on a machine that protected the powerful for decades. Her phone buzzed with a text from a journalist friend. "You seriously doing this? They'll say you're angry, unstable." Jasmine typed back. "They always say that, until they can't." She knew courage came with a ticking clock. By the time she walked into the studio, the folder felt heavier. Not physically, but emotionally. She had one shot to say it clearly, or the moment would drown in outrage and spin. In the hallway mirror, 10 minutes before airtime, she steadied herself. "Be surgical. Be steady. Don't yell. Let the facts shout." Then, as always before a fight, she whispered, "Tell the truth." To understand what Jasmine knew, we must rewind. Long before Melania Trump was a household name, she was Melania Knaus from Sevnica, Slovenia. The glossy profiles painted her rise as a fairy tale, but Jasmine wasn't buying fairy tales. She wanted the missing chapters. Her intern Troy Whitman first flagged inconsistencies in Melania's early modeling and business records. She signed a patent in Zurich in '98, Troy said, hunched over a laptop in their cramped Capitol Hill office. But she claimed to be in the U.S. full-time by then. Jasmine leaned in. "What kind of patent jewelry designs?" Vague. But the trail doesn't go cold until 2003. She had overseas ties long after she said she didn't. It sounded minor, jewelry designs, old paperwork, but Jasmine, a former lawyer, knew what offshore accounts often hid. Then came the Pennsylvania connection, a closed 2006 lawsuit in Allegheny County under Mesknaus Holdings. On the surface, a real estate dispute. Buried in the appendix, a sealed affidavit alleging wire fraud, signatures redacted. The judge, now retired, sealed it under national interest. No one dug deeper. Troy looked up. "She's got too many names tied to too many shady businesses. Either she was laundering money, or she's the unluckiest entrepreneur alive." Jasmine built a timeline: 1996-2006 modeling gigs, green card discrepancies, a boutique fashion line under a cousin's name in New Mexico, a Miami consulting firm with 0 employees, and one massive loan. It wasn't just suspicious, it was structured. A contact in Harrisburg, a former financial crimes investigator, reviewed her files off record. "My opinion, cover operation. Shells to funnel money. Small enough to avoid headlines, just enough to keep people quiet. Feds either weren't looking, or someone told them not to." That burned Jasmine most, not the alleged crimes, but how silence swooped in when names got powerful. Melania had crafted an image. Elegant, distant, harmless. But Jasmine saw distance as protection, not detachment. She waited, didn't leak to the press, didn't tease. She picked her moment. This wasn't about political points. It was about asking why Melania's past was always off-limits. The round table didn't just catch Melania off guard, it shattered a curated world unaccustomed to scrutiny. Felix, visibly rattled, tried to slow it down. "You're saying Melania Trump was tied to financial misconduct during her husband's campaign planning?" Jasmine flipped a page. "I'm saying financial structures tied to her name moved money through New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware under companies that vanished after one tax season." Melania's hands gripped her chair. "This is political theater. I won't dignify lies. Jasmine met her eyes. If they're lies, welcome an investigation. Silence. Even the lighting felt hotter. The control room erupted. Some wanted the feed cut. Others saw ratings gold. Clips hit 11 million views by noon the next day. Felix muttered offstage, "We just aired the most important 7 minutes of the year, and none of it was scripted." Backlash hit fast. At 10:14 p.m., Melania's legal team issued a statement. The Congresswoman's remarks are defamatory and unfounded. We're exploring all legal options. Fox spun it as a racist attack by an angry black woman. Anonymous threats poured in emails. Distorted voicemails, a video of Jasmine walking to her car, filmed from across the street. She didn't flinch. "I'm angry, not scared," she told Kenny, taping a threatening photo to her wall as a reminder of who she faced. But the public tide turned. Journalist Farah Odom posted a thread verifying Jasmine's documents, racking up 600,000 likes. "If half of this is accurate, it deserves congressional attention," she wrote. "This isn't drama, it's fraud." 19 days later, under public pressure, the House Subcommittee on Government Oversight held a hearing. The room, beige walls, stiff chairs, wasn't built for drama, but tension crackled. Jasmine, in a plain blazer, adjusted her mic. "Everything I presented comes from legal public channels, court filings, transfers, transactions. This isn't politics. It's patterns of misuse, trust, power, and silence. If these patterns tied to anyone else, without that last name, this room would have been full years ago." A wire transfer record projected behind her, detailing a shell entity in Delaware linked to a Slovenian ledger. The committee didn't breathe. Melania wasn't there. Her team submitted, "Mrs. Trump has nothing to hide. She won't dignify political bullying." The empty chair spoke louder. Mid-session, a former compliance officer from the gallery handed over invoices tied to a Melania-supported Florida charity funds, never reached beneficiaries. Jasmine paused, then said, "This is what happens when you crack the door. People come forward." By afternoon, cable news looped highlights. Protesters gathered outside, some for Jasmine, others against. Representative Harold Klein closed, "We reconvene next week. This is far from over." Weeks later, on a quiet balcony in Arlington, Texas, Jasmine reflected with Kenny. Whistleblowers had emerged: a former attorney, a bank analyst, a Slovenian journalist, blacklisted for digging into Melania's dealings. Threats persisted, as did lobbyist pressure and online harassment of her family. Yet she regretted nothing. This wasn't about Melania alone. It was about shattering the illusion that wealth polish or silence equaled immunity. A letter from Des Moines read, "Watching you stand with facts and fire made me believe again. Thank you for making me feel seen." Jasmine folded it away. "This isn't over," she told Kenny. He nodded. "But now they know who's watching." This story isn't just about a TV clash or scandal. It's about what happens when one person with everything to lose and nothing to gain chooses truth over silence. If it moves, you share it. Speak up. The moment we stop asking questions, we surrender our power. Truth still matters. She didn't tease it to the press. She didn't leak pieces to pundits. She waited, she watched, she picked her moment, and when that live round table came knocking, she knew this wasn't about scoring political points. It was about asking the question that too many people had ignored. Why has this woman's past always been treated as off-limits? But what made it even more complicated was the case that never made it to court. The one that vanished just as it was heating up. The case file had no title on the cover. Just a date, June 17th, 2011, location, Syracuse, New York. It was thin, about 12 pages long, but every sentence inside it carried weight. Jasmine had gotten it through a retired paralegal named Rodney Klein, who'd once worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of New York. He still had copies of old files. The system had misplaced this one, Rodney said, sliding the file across his kitchen table. It wasn't supposed to vanish, but someone made it disappear. Inside was a memo referencing a woman named McNoss, a known alias of Melania. Before she changed the spelling of her name in official U.S. documents, the memo outlined a federal inquiry into a suspected financial funneling scheme involving small real estate purchases, sudden resales, and offshore payments that didn't match tax records. The key witness, a Slovenian-born accountant named Lydia Korchi, who had quietly been cooperating with the IRS. At the time, she'd been living in Buffalo under a temporary visa, working through an amnesty program for whistleblowers. But her cooperation had come at a price. She vanished. Rodney said 2 weeks after this memo, she stopped showing up to check-ins, Never picked up her last stipend apartment cleared out overnight. Jasmine flipped through the pages. Any chance she went home? Rodney shook his head. Passports were flagged. No flight records, nothing at the time. The case was labeled inactive. Eventually it was closed, under insufficient supporting testimony in short, without Lydia. The case died quietly, no headlines, no accountability. Jasmine sat with that for a long time. She contacted an old friend at the Syracuse Herald, a local reporter named Chelsea Morano, who had covered the story briefly when it first emerged. But back then, no one knew the full scope and few people cared. I remember that Chelsea told her over the phone we tried to follow up, but the federal office stonewalled us. Then 2 of our editors got pulled into private meetings and the story just vanished. Did you ever hear Melania's name in connection to it? Chelsea hesitated, never on record, but there were whispers. Back then we thought it was crazy. I mean, a Slovenian model mixed up in real estate. Laundering seemed like a reach, but now I'm not so sure. Jasmine stared out the window of her office, watching the rain slide down the glass. Everything about the case reeks of interference, quiet, sophisticated interference. There was also a list of properties, 7 in total, bought and sold through shell companies in upstate New York, each one purchased under $400. 0 resold within 18 months, for at least double, no renovations, no clear buyers, just paper trails that went in circles. The final buyer on 3 of those homes, a trust linked to a man Melania had reportedly dated in the 1990s, someone with close ties to European banking networks. The deeper Jasmine looked, the clearer the pattern became. Identities were being moved around like chess pieces. One wrong question, and the game disappeared. She printed every page, every map, every note, pinned it all on her office wall like a detective piecing together a cold case. Kenny walked in one afternoon and just stared. "You're not letting this go, are you?" Jasmine didn't even look up, "Would you?" He shook his head, then pulled up a chair. "So, what's the plan? We show people that power has fingerprints, even when it wears a designer gown and smiles for the cameras." There was one last thing in the file that Jasmine couldn't ignore: a letter, unsigned, typed, and scanned. It read, "To whom it may concern, there are names you're not supposed to say and places you're not supposed to look if you keep going. Don't expect applause, expect silence. Expect doors to close, but do it anyway. Some things are worth the price." Jasmine had no idea who wrote it, but she read that line over and over again. Do it anyway. That letter was why she didn't hesitate when the round table invitation came. That letter was why she printed the documents, packed the folder, and told no one, not even her comms director, what she was about to do, because when a system counts on silence, the loudest thing you can do is speak. But the round table didn't just catch Melania off guard. It sent shockwaves into a carefully managed world that wasn't built to be questioned. The producers had everything scheduled down to the second, a 7-minute opener on bipartisan strategy, then a short debate on immigration reform. After that, a 10-minute panel on political accountability. That's where they slotted Jasmine. What they didn't plan for, what no one planned for, was what she brought with her. The studio was in Stamford, Connecticut, neutral ground. No DC theatrics, no